How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am back for another comic book video. And this shirt that I'm wearing, I'm not arguing, I am just explaining why I'm right. And that is me in a nutshell. Okay, for the next video for MLJ Month, I'm going to go over somebody who I was requested to do last time I did MLJ Month, but didn't have a chance to cover him completely, which is actually good. Because of the digital museum that I've been able to find, I've been able to read all 12 issues that this hero starred in, and wow, there is a lot to unpack about this guy. So we're going to cover the hero, the Web. Yes, the Web in his first appearance is widely different from the Web that appeared in Image Comics, which was the DC re-releasing MLJ characters that they had the rights for. If you've ever read Impact Comics, you understand. Now, this isn't going to be a gigantic deep dive, because even though I own every issue of Impact Comics, the Web, I actually haven't had a chance to read them yet, so I can't do a deep dive. The Web from Impact, which I believe was in the 90s, it was a secret organization, a lot like the way S.H.I.E.L.D. is in Marvel. But we will cover the Web in his MLJ appearance. This is a really unusual one. He kind of has a love interest that goes away in a few issues, and his hair is constantly changing color. I mean, in some issues he's black, he has black hair, and in some issues he has blonde hair, and in the same issues that he has blonde hair, he has red hair. I don't know what was up with the coloring. So there's a lot to unpack with the Chinese people stereotypes, the Russians speaking in a Russian accent, or speaking American in a Russian accent. Even when they were talking to each other, they were still speaking in a Russian accent. They're speaking American in a Russian accent. A perfect example is if you've watched Wonder Woman, the way Steve Trevor was talking to the guard to get into the castle, where he was speaking American, a Russian accent, is exactly how, it's exactly how I pictured them saying it in the comic book, because they changed a lot of the letters around, like W's to V, so when they were talking to someone, they were saying like, "What do you want?" instead of "What do you want?" So let's go ahead and unpack the issues of the Web, and if I don't have enough time, I have another hero I can include, but we'll go ahead and cover the Web, and someone else if there's not enough time for this one. So let's get started. The Web, John Raymond, first appeared in Zip Comics number 27, 1942. The original publisher is MLJ, for an MLJ Month. He was created by John Casson, or Caswan. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this. From the Web's very first appearance, he appeared on the cover of many of the issues that he first appeared in. Now, Zip Comics, I believe Sterling Steel was the cover of every cover. It was on the feature of every cover. But on the Web's first 9 appearances, he appeared on the cover along with Sterling Steel. In fact, in 5 of his earliest appearances, he was actually the featured story, which he appeared as the first story in the comic. So it seemed like he was fairly popular, and even if he wasn't the first story from issues 27 to 35, he was the second story Now this changed in the last 3 issues he was in, 36, 37, and 38. Now his face did appear on the cover of number 37, but in these last 3, he was the last story to appear. So either he fell out of popularity, which would have been a huge drop considering he was no longer on the cover or even the first or second story. But it also looked like Zip Comics was changing their format to comedy, much in the same way that Top Notch Comics were doing. So that might have been one of the reasons, but after the web stopped appearing, Red Rube was appearing after they took off the web, but that's another story for another time. And Sterling Steele, I believe he appeared on the cover of every Zip comic. Anyways, John Raymond was the web from the very first appearance of him in his comic book. His first introduction, he was already the web. In fact, his first issue that he appeared in, they didn't even give his origin story. He was just a web, and he stopped these, they were either Chinese or Japanese criminals, and they painted them, they were yellow, which I don't know how that even got started, where you would picture them as yellow, but they were yellow. Now, John Raymond was actually a professor at a college, and he taught classes in criminology. And in his first appearance, he was approached by one of his students by the name of Rose Wayne, and she wanted him to help him investigate she claimed it was an accident. She saw a man in a burning car, and the car was standing still when it caught on fire. And she told this to the professor, and he agreed that this was unusual, so they went to investigate. And the cops were already there, and they pretty much just shooed them away because, they weren't part of the police force. As they were leaving the building, they were engaged by the enemy. Somebody on the roof threw an axe at them, and he threw the axe back at the guy who threw the axe and apparently killed them. They were rushed by more criminals. He fought them off, and him and Rose drove away very quickly. Later on, she would notice that what was it? It was a spider web cast. It was like a how do I want to describe this? It was a spider clasp that was part of the web's web outfit, and she recognized this. So after the web stopped the Chinese, I guess they were terrorists. They were trying to get information out of government officials, and it was very stereotypical. At one point, one of the guys trying to subdue the web said, "I will destroy web now, master." And then the web undid his belt, and he goes, "Honorable pants have fallen down." I mean, I guess you could kind of give this a pass because it was the 40s and nobody really cared the depiction of foreign cultures back then, but it doesn't make it any less racial stereotyping and sensitive. But again, it was the 40s. You didn't care about the foreign people, especially people that we were just recently fighting in World War II. By the end of the comic book, he takes down the Chinese terrorists. The police arrest them, and then Rose confronts John about how he is the web. Now, the funny thing about Rose is in the beginning of this issue, her hair was actually black. And while in the middle of their investigation, her hair suddenly turns blonde. Now, she would remain blonde for the rest of this. Now, I thought that she was going to be the web's love interest, but she only appeared in a number of issues, 27 through 29, and issue number 32. In fact, in the issue 29, the government asked John Raymond if he could go overseas and investigate some Nazis or just Germans holding a pastor prisoner. And he even tells her, Rose, I have something that I need to ask you when I get back. Well, they never paid that off. Even her appearance in number 32 is very minuscule when she asked the professor to help saving her father, who also turns out to be a pastor. Now, the second appearance, he actually goes ahead and talks about why he became the Web. When he was younger, he had a brother named Tim who was constantly breaking the law. Now, John would stop Tim one of the last times that he was, I don't know if it was one of the last times, but it was one of the times he was breaking the law. He stopped Tim and told him that he couldn't keep taking things that didn't belong to him. Later that night, the cops would come over and arrest Tim, and they said, look, this is the third time he's done something and we've got complaints, we're taking him out of here. And he would be taken off to what John said was reform school. Now, later in the future, we know that John had written a book on criminology, and there was a raging storm, and all of a sudden his brother was there with a gun because he had broken out of jail. Now, John went to the phone and was going to call the cops, but his brother revealed that he had cut the phone lines. And the cops, he's like, I thought you were in jail. Well, so did the guards. They didn't realize that I escaped. So after he finds out that the phone lines were cut, we cut to the police station where they're trying to contact John to let him know that his brother was out. But since the phone lines were cut, they went to John's house to inform him of this. Now, his brother wanted money so he could get away, and John was, look, complete your sentence and you get out with a clean slate. And this would be the only time we ever see his brother. His brother would never appear again in the comic books. Now, the police would go to John's house and catch his brother with the gun. Now, as they were hauling his brother away, he said, you see, brother, you trapped yourself by cutting the phone lines. If you hadn't done that, they never would have come here to inform me. And then he said to himself, it's interesting to see the way criminals catch themselves. I want to become a superhero, the Web, and showing criminals how they make their own web to catch themselves. Now, in the early issues, it was kind of interesting to see how the criminals, the complexity of them, would end up trapping them in a web of their own making, which is what John was setting out to do in the comic, was helping these criminals get into their own making. Now, the last couple of issues, the stories weren't quite as captivating, but I think that they were just trying to finish him off so they could replace him. But in his first, before the last three, they were actually kind of interesting stories, even if they were a little racially insensitive. Like, with the Russians, every time a Russian appeared on the comics, you know that they were Russian because they were speaking American in a Russian accent, because they would change some of the letters around so you would know that they were Russian by the way you would read the text bubbles. He would do more than just go after Russians. That was the primary thing. He went after a couple of gangsters too, but it was mainly the foreign powers that he fought against. John Raymond does not have any superpowers, but he is smart enough to be a professor, and he studied in criminology, so I guess he has, I guess you might be able to call him a genius. He's actually very intelligent. Now, why he only appeared for 12 issues, I don't know, and why he wasn't more popular, I can't explain that either. I actually thought it was a very interesting story, but I was also thrown off at the fact that his hair was constantly changing from, in some issues, it being black, and then in the issues where it wasn't black, it was constantly switching from blonde to redhead. That was a little distracting. So he didn't have any connection with newspapers, didn't have a consistent love interest, and he fought crime because he thought it was interesting to see how criminals would catch themselves. So that's basically the story of the web. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're enjoying MLJ Month. Now, as I said, it's going to be extended into September. So if there's someone that you want to see that I haven't considered, or that maybe I just haven't gotten to yet, go ahead and leave me a message in the comments and we'll see what we can do. So until next time, I'll be seeing you.